Everybody ready to proceed?
Yes, sir.
Excuse me. I'm ready. Y'all go ahead. Y'all remember on the St. Joe project.
It's a little past 4. We'll call the roll of magistrates, establish a quorum.
Mr. Elder?
Here.
Mr. Wicker?
Here.
Mr. Smothers?
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell?
Here.
Mr. Masterson?
Here.
All present.
Yeah, we put that in.
Very good. We have quorum. We will go ahead and proceed. Okay, everybody's got a copy in their packet of the minutes from the previous meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second. Are y'all okay with that?
Any discussion on those minutes? If not,
Was that still?
Mr. Elder?
Yes.
Mr. Wicker?
Yes.
Smothers?
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell?
Yes.
Mr. Masterson?
Yes.
Unanimous.
That's fine, unless they come back wanting something else.
we get
now.
together and
No, they're just gonna take.
Item 2,
That's what they're gonna spend. There are no more.
every year at the last meeting, we typically go ahead and approve the
It's on there.
fiscal or the calendar year 2014 or the next calendar year holiday schedule. This is identical to past years with the exception that we did put Election Day back in because there is an election coming up in November. This year we deferred Election Day, kept the holidays at 9, and we did put in Veterans Day instead. So we've still got 9 holidays, and that's it's where, it's basically the same as we've had in 6 of the last 7 years anyway.
Motion to approve. Second. Second.
Mr. Elder?
Yes. Yes.
Mr. Wicker?
Yes.
Mr. Smothers?
Yes.
Mr. Masterson?
Yes.
Unanimous.
I do have one question on that, Judge. The holiday schedule, I know at times, of course, we have the PVA office and so forth, they're closed at different times, so forth. I didn't know if it was possible to line it up to where all county offices or the office as a whole is closed at the same time. You know what I'm saying?
PVA, and did I put a copy of the state schedule with your office? We can't afford to be as liberal as the state.
Oh,
but
no.
the thing that we have done and do, I guess, a couple times a year, when the ABIS system is down and the state's not doing any transfers, PVA office is closed, clerk's office is closed, we have in fact closed the building. On, I think there's about 2 Saturdays a year that we'll close. We don't list them, but and then we do a consensus if they're going to be open. Like sometimes it's close to the end of the year in tax collection, they may elect to stay open.
Yeah, that's good.
So we just haven't published it that way, but we do follow that schedule.
That sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, item number 3, the Raywick Fire Department, I know I've talked to 2 or 3 more, was up Gravel Switch to their little Christmas gathering there last Saturday night, and I guess the Raywick had theirs as well. Everybody's ready for their second installment. Most of them have several, deductions, and they get a net amount after their payments for trucks or building expansion. So I guess I'd entertain a motion to approve the
Motion to approve.
the installments to the fire departments,
Second.
net of any deductions.
Mr. Smothers? Yes. Mr. Masterson?
Yes.
Mr. Elder?
Yes.
Mr. Wicker?
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Yeah, item number 4 is really just more of a FYI than anything. We do get a copy of the clerk's and the sheriff's end of the year audits. Basically, they were blessed. They've always been clean audits, a couple of little notes to the financial statements, nothing of any real, I think, concern or consequence, but the sheriff and the clerk have to respond to those individually if they want to address them. So I'd entertain a motion to accept the audit report of the sheriff's.
Motion.
Second.
Mr. Masterson?
Yes.
Mr. Elder?
Yes.
Mr. Wicker?
Yes.
Mr. Smothers?
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell? Mr. Caldwell?
Oh, yes.
Unanimous.
Item 5,
Poke him a little there. Yeah.
Rebecca Hill, one of the agents, sent a reminder that usually at this time of year, there's some of the special district board members that are needed to be rotated off if they've served their maximum number of terms or reappointed for another term if they're eligible to serve. In this case, it's the Extension District Board. There are 2 members, Ms. Kim Jones and Mr. Joe Bernard Luckett, that are up for either reappointment or replacement, and they recommended them to be reappointed.
Motion to approve both.
Second.
Smothers?
Yes.
Mr. Wicker? Mr. Elder?
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell?
Yes.
Mr. Masterson?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Yeah, item number 6, there's no definite date on this yet, but I did want to get y'all's opinion mostly. We have some language in our personnel policy administrative code related to harassment, sexual harassment, and harassment in general. And after you've seen what's happened, everything from the NFL to the State House with Mr. Representative Arnold, from a liability standpoint, it probably would be good if we had access to some training regarding harassment. And Ms. Zella Pearson, who's done some training up here, has got a program that she said that she's getting DLG approval on for House Bill 810 training hires, and another shorter program for just all the employees in groups of 25 and department heads and so forth that may come into situations where they could be charged with harassment or maybe some form of charges, and just for county protection, and I think just to update people on some of the things that are out there. It'd be good if we tried to offer this, let them schedule in their employees, run them through an hour session or a 2-hour session or whatever was scheduled.
Make it mandatory?
I like the idea. If we don't mandatory, I don't think they'll show up.
Well, you know, you hear a lot of stuff either on sexual harassment or hostile work environment and stuff like that, and I think if you do a little bit of proactive awareness building both among your employees and among your supervisors and public officials, you can potentially avoid and head off future problems. So.
Yeah, and I agree. Looking at I see there's 2 options. You know, I wonder if it would be, as opposed to doing it like a day 1 and day 2 type option, if it would be better to do it, say, per department, for example, and let that department work with Ms. Pearson in scheduling and training. Yeah, I mean.
I just say you can't take a whole department at one time.
Right.
Yeah, I think she'd be flexible enough to schedule it, kind of.
That sound better to you?
Either way, as long as it's in the evening, probably. Did you say you're going to try to do like 2 sessions?
Well, the employees are really only a 1-hour session. The public officials, there's a 2.5-hour session for training for them, which would be a half-day session roughly.
Well, see, for example, you take the road department, sanitation department, if she could start early and do that 1-hour session. I know it's going to put you behind an hour, but that's the only way I see it really happening, as opposed to pulling them all out. Same way with.
Well, what time does she start?
Well, I'm sure that if we pay for her hotel, she'll probably start early.
Right, and they, for 25 people, for the employees, 25 or less.
I ran into it with my part-time employees work up the guys.
Right.
That could be in the evening or a weekend.
You know, the other question, and Joe, let me ask you this. How would it work in regards to training, or having just the department heads or supervisors going through the training, Ms. Pearson providing with documentation information, and then the supervisors passing that out and so forth?
It's helpful. That'd be a way to, I guess, cut down on the time that it's going to take to get through all the employees, but, you know, getting it to the people who might ultimately be accused of harassment would be important. I mean, are your department heads going to just pass it out and expect that they'll read it, or are they going to, you know, spend a half an hour with them or something like that and go over it and make sure that they can, you know, they can document that they at least were, you know, were told and made to look at and read it. I think you could do that, and I think still, if you're going to let her schedule with each department heads rather than 2 days, she's going to be out here 6 days.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think you've got to be a little bit diligent in making sure your department heads are not going to just, just hand them something that goes to the trash can the next week.
Or if they actually go through the training, we can have the employee to sign off. And
or if you do department heads and, you know, the 1 or 2 chief.
Yeah, supervisors or assistants or.
Each employee needs to sign off on it that they read it, I guess. And then we'll have the documentation that they read, supposed to read it.
Well, I do agree with the judge. I mean, I think it's something definitely worthwhile that we have to, or we should do. So, but I think you have to look at it, for example, Robbie's correct, you got part-timers that we have to deal with. Then with the detention center, of course, you have, two different shifts, I guess. So, if you bring people in after hours, will they be compensated or not on their personal time? I might suggest actually, Judge, if you don't mind, it might be better to get with Jailer and Robbie and Tommy and those guys and see.
Potential schedule.
Yeah, exactly, kind of come to an
Be the least
agreement.
restrictive or confined for employees.
Yeah, because, what might work for Tommy, for example, might not work for Robbie. So that way they have direct input in exactly how it's laid out. And then we can put the responsibility on them as well.
We have a little bit of the same issue, particularly like with open enrollment or trying to get wellness things, or, when we've tried to schedule things at the jail and time for an insurance person to sign off on them or get them to sign up or something, becomes a little bit of a, logistics problem. But I think if everybody's aware of it in advance, we can kind of make a little bit of change and shift in schedules to accommodate some of that. If it's,
I think you got to make it mandatory, and I'm not against paying them for that hour that they are for each employee.
Make it mandatory, I think you'd have to, wouldn't you?
Right,
After hours, yeah.
right.
Yeah, but won't you get with the department heads, and then that shouldn't be that big a deal to.
I agree.
By the next meeting, you come up with an idea of how to handle it.
well, I can verify with Ms. Pearson that she's got some flexibility to meet our schedules as well. I think all she was really wanting to do is to see if y'all were interested in providing the training.
I think it'd be excellent training.
Me too.
Yeah, so.
We get a motion to provide the training, and we'll work out the flexibility in the scheduling
Need a motion to
Motion.
to provide some.
provide training, to check into it and come up with a plan.
Second. You already second?
Mr. Masterson? Mr. Smothers?
Yes.
Mr. Elder?
Yes.
Mr. Wicker? Mr. Caldwell?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay, item number 7, actually, you've seen, I guess, Karen's budget for the first time, and she had a clerk's meeting. She's not here to address any questions or concerns you might have, and she was expecting us to probably defer to the next meeting anyway. I have looked at and compared the numbers, and, both these budgets are what I'd call materially correct. There is a little bit bigger increase in the annual order for setting maximum deputy and assistant salary in the clerks than there is in the sheriff's. Hers has actually got about an 8% increase in that line item on that sheet compared to the budget from last year. And I don't know where she's gotten, because of an election year and realigning districts and changing 2,000 voters' locations, she's probably scheduling some additional hours for workers in that. I've had a couple of conversations with Karen, and
$1 an hour.
I think she did actually email, and y'all got a copy of it, the state finally did approve the precinct lines as they were proposed, and now that does in fact require the actual reassignment of about 2,000 voters to different precincts, so she's probably adjusting some of that for part-time hours for additional staff or something. So without her here to answer those questions, I don't really have any reason to doubt what she's submitted. And the sheriff's, couple little inaccuracies that were in the original budget have been corrected as far as I can tell. Like I say, from material submission, I can't see any problems with them unless y'all got some more questions about them. But if y'all want to.
I don't have any. I went back. I went back through the sheriff's budget there. I see where overall compared to last year it went up a little over $6,000. Is that about right?
It was actually a $2,000 shrink, which I was kind of surprised. But
exactly.
Then it came back with an adjusted amount, so it's a negligible increase from 912, 916,000. It's only about a $4,000 adjustment, really.
There you go.
I didn't understand on the receipts from 3,000 to 9,000 on miscellaneous. I don't understand.
On the miscellaneous line, I don't know. That's one of those, I guess, vague categories anyway, and it's
Exactly.
It's kind of a nondescript area that may just be a balancing line item. So I don't know why they would have adjusted that one quite, the way they did, but,
Well, I don't have, personally, I don't have a problem, since we've reviewed or had time to review the sheriffs, I don't have a problem approving the sheriffs. As far as the county clerks, do you guys want to wait till we see Karen on that, or what's your, or?
Yeah, I'm not gonna approve Karen's for sure today, and I'm like Jackie, I'm not wanting to pick anything apart, but, the miscellaneous went from 3 to 9. 9,000 probably been a miscellaneous, and I'd like for one of them being here to tell me, it's $60 a week versus $175 a week, if you want to break it down per week. And $175 a week's got to be a whole lot of something miscellaneous.
Well, I'd say that when you're looking at the overall budget figure, you're talking about $1 million budget roughly?
close to it, yeah.
It's small
You're talking
compared
about,
to that.
let's put it this way. I don't know about you, but I know in our company, we're much larger than $1 million, but if I'm running $1 million budget and I've got a $9,000 or $6,000 adjustment on miscellaneous, if that's the least of my worries, then life's good.
Not
Yeah, but I will say, I don't see any reason not to approve the sheriff's budget. I went back through it, I compared it to last year's. Again, it went up $6,000, which is or about $6,300 minimum increase. He's the elected official. It's his responsibility. They still have this, I think they've increased their staff by maybe 2. So I really don't see reason not to approve the sheriff's. I can understand waiting that.
I had a question on the total payroll. It increased, but then on the benefits, on the employer's Social Security and the share retirement, all that decreased. Looked like that would have to, I was just thinking that maybe it was
I saw that too.
oversight.
Yeah, I think it had to be an oversight, and then you look at the CLEP, I think the CLEP portion's what screwed it up, or what made it off balance, excuse me. So.
I didn't know about it being last year, it's a higher than it's going to be this year. So it looks like it's, when you figure those numbers, look like it'd have to, the retirement side on the employer side, it would have to be higher.
Well, here's the thing too. I don't look for us to micromanage anyone's budget. I'll just tell you. And I go back to Judge Hergen in that the elected, whether it be the jail budget, whether it be the Karen's budget, whether it be the sheriff's budget, they're elected officers. It's our responsibility to check and secure the budget. It's their responsibility from a fiduciary standpoint to manage that budget on behalf of the taxpayers. And when I see that on $1 million budget, it goes up, you're talking less than a percentage point, I think it's pretty good management.
But if they're getting money from fiscal court, we should be looking at it, shouldn't we?
Oh, yeah. But we see exactly where the allocations for the court go, the deputy salaries and the benefits and.
Well, my only question is that if this is an oversight and they turn the budget in, I'd rather for them to look, I'm sure you've seen that too, right? You know what I'm talking about? Like just on the employer side, where that it's less.
Well, let's do this. Let's get that call down to the sheriff's office, because I know they want to turn it in, because it has to be in. They go by the calendar year as opposed to us.
Right, and I don't want it to be an oversight and then they see it and catch it later, but, I think it's called.
See if somebody come up.
The only thing that they may have done is, it went down $1,400.
Right.
If their actual percent that they submit, when you calculate, it comes out that this is a more accurate number, it could have actually shrunk.
Yeah.
I know that the two line items are the employer share retirement and the employer share of Social Security, both those numbers went down.
Right.
Which, if salaries went up, unless they were over budgeted last year, that would be the only reason why you'd make that adjustment.
My concern is,
if
are
we
they
seen
on the
the
same
actual-
kind of a schedule raises the rest of the county employees?
Well, we were told in our budget meeting when we met up here and asked them that question, that everybody in the county was going to be operating somewhere within that 3% range is what we proposed.
They didn't do it, though.
And so I don't, like I say, the way their budget's put together and the way their salaries are reported with that maximum allowance for deputies and assistants, it's not disaggregated to the point where you can determine individually what the salaries are compared from year to year. And we relied upon the assurances from the elected officials, both the sheriff and the jailer, and I guess the clerk has always concurred that they try to keep their salaries in line with the rest of the county raises. Now, I think we have
Why
found
is it
out.
that we wouldn't be allowed to know the salary.
Oh, I think we would have access to getting that, and I actually noted in the minutes last year that we were going to request, and did request, copies of departmental wage rates, so we could make sure that we're all on the same page with the rate increases and wage rate adjustments, things like that, but I haven't received a definitive listing of salaries to be able to make that comparison. They have been requested.
And over here. You already requested them?
I gave them a copy of the minutes from last year where we made that note in our. So if y'all want to defer on the budgets, we can go on to item number 8.
Well, does it need to be approved today, and does it?
I thought we had the January 15th to submit to approve.
Well, we could wait and see how they can come up and tell us, and then we can still discuss it or whatever.
Hey, Mr. Smothers.
Judge, on that one page on the 213, 214 estimates, item number 50, which says total office expense.
Is this the sheriff's
Sheriff, yeah.
latest version that was in your report today?
Well, I think it was the same way on the other one, but it's on the,
What page is it?
item 50,
On the comparison
on the
budget?
comparison budget. See if you got the same one I've got.
I've got 3 or 4 of them here now.
215,000?
Well, but over in 13, it's 912. Or you got 215 both of them?
Line number 50,
On the comparison.
total official expenses.
Yeah.
Yeah, now this was the one that they submitted on the 5th. They didn't update their, no, it's 2013.
Yeah.
2013 was 912. That was last year's total receipts or estimated receipts.
So how come it went all the
They're
way
only,
down?
the 2014, the comparison, if you look at the first page of that comparison, it's got the 2013 receipts and 2014 receipts. That's why I say it really only grew by about $4,000. From year to year, the budget expected revenues.
Judge, I called down the sheriff's office, and Jimmy was out, the guys are out, and Debbie's at the office of herself, so she's answering my mother's question. On the miscellaneous expenses, though, I did ask her about that, and she said that she increased that due to the fact that each year that the original, what she had was incorrect, so she increased it, the percentage she increases each year. So that balanced that out, so I think Mayor Smothers will talk to her right now, so.
Okay, again, like I said, I don't see anything materially necessarily incorrect with the budget as submitted now, and really don't see anything wrong with the carry-ins. That increase in the deputies and assistant wages on the clerks was about 8.4% increase over last year. And actually, the amount on the total for the sheriff's deputies and assistants is not quite increased enough to give everybody the 3% raise, the way I interpret it.
I think
that can come from other parts of the budget.
Yeah, that's true, and I think it's about, the way I looked at it, I think it was about 2 and, what was it, 2.58 or something, 2.6, actually.
So it's up to the court.
You know, again, we got to remember, too, I will say this, we've been very fortunate as opposed to other courts in other areas, but of course, the county, like Master Wicker said, we do offset their budget, or not the county clerks, but the sheriff's budgets. Did you get your question answered?
Yeah, she said what had actually happened, they had cut Stephanie's hours down and went from like 37 hours because of Saturday work, and she said that's why that number went down on the sheriff retirement.
Cut them down for what reason?
She said that they had cut Stephanie's hours down for the Saturday work, And she said that's what happened on that. She totaled up the salary, and then she went back and totaled the Social Security side, and she said that was right. The 41,947 was right. So my question was, I just didn't want her to send it in. It'd be, wrong, so. I'm okay with my question.
I got a motion on the floor to approve the sheriff's budget.
Are everybody else good with it? Are y'all good with it?
Any more questions?
No. That, what'd you say this, Judge, this other thing was, that item 50, what'd you say the difference was?
The first budget we got was
On the comparison budget,
$218, and then the next budget we got, it was $3,443. I don't understand that.
again, this is, like I said, it's a working budget. I don't know what the audit does
Budget we
Okay.
got.
Right,
uncover
okay, yeah.
everything.
That's Stephanie and
Right.
and then a part-time if they need him.
That's just this category of, this, and that was, I think that was wrong last year. In other words, I picked up on that the 912,000 was the total budget, which is down here, and probably it should have been more like that number last year's budget. In other words, I think that number was actually put in the wrong
The
line
215?
last year.
Right, and I think it should be the 215. I mean, I think that was the note she put down.
This should be the lesser number up here.
215, that's what I...
Number 50, what are you saying?
Yes, sir.
What is it?
Official expenses?
Right, last time it was 916, it was a...
It's got 916, 215 on here, but like I said, it may be
But she made that in a note, that she said that was...
Yeah, that was, she put that up.
She did put that in there, I did see that. Uh-huh. See it? See right here?
If we don't get to the 15, let's just pass it,
Mr.
let
Quayle?
it clean up.
Exactly.
The notes, just let them write them on the paper here. And if we've got to the 15, if we need to pass it, we can pass it. If we don't have to, let's just let them get all the numbers on the paper right and forget all the notes.
She put that on there. She said it was an oversight. Right, she said that should...
We've had 2 weeks to,
See, Larry, here's what I was talking about.
We have, but it's been a mess, John.
Last year.
I understand.
This is actually the one we approved
I don't
last
understand
year.
why you wait to the last minute or at a meeting to ask questions. I went down and saw Jimmy, after I missed the last meeting.
12,000
Because I had questions
on that
myself.
line
I talked to Jimmy a
from
while
last
back.
year. And I think it really is just supposed to include those 50 items and not every item in the whole budget. In other words,
Just from 40 to the 47.
what they call the official expenses, not the total budget expense.
Oh, okay.
In other words, it should just be
She
from
noted
like
that,
here
she did
down.
write that on the paper, that was a...
What they got, 215 there, I think that's actually correct. Yeah.
Well, Judge, I've got a motion on the floor. If there's a second, we can take a vote. If not, move forward.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I mean, I second, unless y'all got other questions. Did y'all have other questions? I'm sorry, something I didn't hear?
Let's do this. Amend the motion with, and I understand what Master Matcher's saying, we'll make the motion to approve the budget, but what we'd like is a final copy before it's sent to Frankfurt, or the copy sent to Frankfurt, so.
Well, we're talking about notes and things. I'm kind of getting a little lost on this thing. Whenever I approve this budget, I want the numbers that are right to be on the budget. Now, are we saying the numbers on this budget are right?
That's what we're saying.
I think they're pretty close
Yeah.
now. The first copy we got, they realized.
Judge, pretty close is not good enough.
Well,
I want the numbers that's going to be
I
sent to
can't find
Frankfurt on this
any,
budget.
I can't find any current inaccuracies with this last version, okay?
When you look at the last version in comparison, I mean, that's what I did. The first one we had, I had questions and I asked the sheriff about it as well as
Well, there was a
Ms.
multitude of questions.
Yeah, but this last one that they sent in, which she gave with the revisions, or trying the explanation of the revisions, I agree with the judge. I don't see any issues with it. And especially with the increase where it is, because we're very fortunate to see such a slight increase. And it's their budget to live within, so.
And they're, you said after examining the their overall wage increase was consistent with what the,
Actually, it was technically, it was less than what we actually gave for county employees.
Well, guys, I'll go along with passing the budget, but I will say this as a footnote for next year. I don't want miscellaneous to go up anymore because I want to know what miscellaneous is.
Well, you're going to always have, even in our budget, I mean, you always have miscellaneous accounts, unfortunately, because miscellaneous does a couple of things. I mean, number one.
Yeah.
But he knows where they come